But there's a lot of books that I haven't read. Some of them I've bought an awfully long time ago. 5, 7, 10. I bet I have some that I haven't read that I bought 15 years ago. And that's okay. Sooner or later, the time is right. I'll be able to grab it and use it. And I do that all the time.
Put that coffee down.
Creators are leaders. Be careful what kind of leaders you're producing here.
Helen, we're both in sales.
Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't.
I'm not leaving. The show goes on.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartman. On this podcast, we deliver ideas and insights from leaders across the construction industry every single week to help you lead more effectively. I'd like to thank our friends at Capital One Trade Credit for delivering this episode to you. If you would be interested in increasing revenue while increasing cash flow and at the same time, that's right, simultaneously decreasing risk, revenue up, cash flow up, risk down. Who doesn't want these sorts of things? If you're interested in that sort of thing, check out Capital One Trade Credit and see if it's a fit for you. So less than 2 weeks ago, on the exact same day, I got 2 emails from 2 different listeners that were asking for clarification on the same thing. And they used some very specific verbiage. Both of them said that they would like to, quote unquote, ask for a friend to learn more about a single topic, the AntiLibrary. And the answer is yes, of course. Number one, we love engaging with our loyal listeners. Feel free to email me directly at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com. And luckily for these individuals, this is a thing. We can do episodes that are titled Asking for a Friend.
Asking for a friend.
So in my life, there's exactly one thing and one thing only to which there is zero budget. That's right. There's an unlimited budget in exactly one area of my life, and that is book purchases. And this is because of a concept that I learned from Mr. Nicholas Taleb. And if you know that name or you've heard of it, it might be from some of the books that he's written. Fooled by Randomness, The Black Swan, and Anti-Fragile. Each one of those books I would strongly recommend to a friend. However, this guy is so smart that you realize you're reading something smart, but you're not quite sure why because you don't completely understand it. I've had that multiple times, but if you work through it, it's a bit of a slog. I think there's a ton of insight, and I really enjoyed his work that has really shaped my thinking both on investing and just thinking about our own time allocations and thinking about risk. Anyway, Nassim Taleb has introduced to the world and to me this idea of an anti-library. And by that, he means the books you own that you have not read are more valuable than the ones that you have. So instead of having a large library of books that you've read that smell of mahogany and are meant to impress people, you should have a very large library of books you have not read. And that is what I have done. If a friend or a family member, or specifically a guest on the podcast, has recommended a book, I will simply buy it. My thinking goes something like this. When the average paperback book costs, say $15 or $16, I can't buy enough of those to truly put my financial status in peril. On the other side, can one idea from one of those books drastically change my life? Absolutely. It can, and they have. So that is the underlying principle of the anti-library. And a very specific example happened recently that perfectly illustrates it. And that is the point of this episode. So as always, thank you for listening. One of the concepts that we've talked about in the podcast and I've written about is this idea of an anti-library. What's an anti-library? Well, it's an idea that was written about by, well, at least where I heard it from, Nicholas Taleb, the Black Swan guy. He wrote the book Black Swan, right? He also wrote this book called Anti-Fragile, which I would strongly recommend to a friend. He does talk about other things that are not anti this or that. But anyway, anti-library was not in anti-fragile. Nonetheless, the idea with an anti-library is if you ever hear of a book or see a book that you think could be of some value at some point in time, don't think about it. Just get it. Buy it. You don't have to read it right away. And quite frankly, you'd rather have a library, like I do, but there's a lot of books that I haven't read. Some of them I've bought an awfully long time ago. 5, 7, 10. I bet I have some that I haven't read that I bought 15 years ago. And that's okay. Sooner or later, the time is right. I'll be able to grab it and use it. And I do that all the time. So the idea is of an anti-library is the books that you own that you have not read are more valuable than the books that you own that you have read, right? You're not trying to impress people at the end of the day. Well, I guess you're kind of trying to impress people. If you impress people along the way, what the hell? That's fine too. So I'm going to give you an extreme example of this. I buy a lot of books. That's why I have books behind me. I have books over there. And soon, real soon, all of this is going to be books as well. So I'm a big believer in this. And of all the ways that I spend money, a lot of them are a lot worse than buying books that can sooner or later, hopefully, make me slightly more intelligent, help someone else get through something and be a better human being. So here's the idea. I stumbled across a syllabus for David Foster Wallace, fantastic author, who wrote a book called Infinite Jest, which is one of the best books, supposedly. It's incredibly long, incredibly dense. It's hard to get through. It's well over 1,000 pages. I've tried multiple times. Have not done it yet. Anyway, Infinite Jest is kind of this famous book that people are known for exclaiming from the rooftops on social media if they have finished it. But anyway, he was a fantastic writer. Unfortunately, he committed suicide in 2008. Being from Illinois, I know that he grew up in Urbana-Champaign, where the University of Illinois is, and then he taught later at Illinois State University in Normal, Illinois. Anyway, I stumbled across his English 102, Literary Analysis 1, Prose Fiction, Fall of 1994, books you have to buy for this class he was teaching. And well, it's pretty easy. I'm just going to buy all of the books on his list. So he had 8 listed. So you had to read 8 books in his class and they were going to dissect them. So, and actually his syllabus there already goes into kind of teaching how to be a better writer and things like that. So I said, well, pretty easy. I'm going to go and buy those. So in order, the first book is, and this is a book that I never would have bought on my own, book is Mary Higgins Clark, Where Are the Children? Never would have bought this. I get it, kind of sheepishly. And I started reading the back. I'm going to skip the first paragraph. Now remarried, she has 2 more beloved children, and the terrible pain has begun to heal until the morning when she looks in the backyard for her little boy and girl and finds only one red mitten. She knows that the nightmare is beginning again. What? All right, I'm excited to read this now. I don't know when I will. It's going to the anti-library. So that was the book number 1. Book number 2 was Jackie Collins' Rockstar. I read about it. It was a love story between, I don't know, a groupie and a rock star or something. I'm like, can't do it. So there's 8 of them. I couldn't do that one. However, third one was James Ellroy, The Big Nowhere. All right. Like James Ellroy, read at least one of his other books. Oh, it's been a long time, 20, 25 years ago. So pick that up. Third one, Thomas Harris, Black Sunday. The guy who wrote, also on his list, Silence of the Lambs, which I've seen multiple times and kind of dug into exactly how they structured the movie and the different scenes and things like that. A lot to learn there. So Silence of the Lambs, this one, Black Sunday, apparently it's about a guy who does drugs and has explosives and is on a blimp and is going to crash into a stadium. Those are pretty good. Number 6, Stephen King, Carrie. Haven't seen the movie, haven't read the book. Stephen King's hit or miss with me. Sometimes I read his stuff and I have crazy nightmares and I can't sleep and I can't read his books anymore. Too much information? Maybe. I'm going to give it a whirl with this because David Foster Wallace said so. Number 7, I did not get. I've already read it, I think twice, but it's been a long time. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Not doing it again. And the last one, Lonesome Dove. Classic, Larry McMurtry. I've never read it. Close friend of mine, Andrew Cooper, project manager at Toll Brothers now, scolded me years ago for not having read this. It's by far the greatest book ever. And now that I'm living in Texas, it's kind of, I guess it's probably standard reading material. But anyway, so here's the deal. You can see all these books. They're paperback. I think for these, 6 books? I don't know. I think I paid $32 to get them here in my house, in my AntiLibrary. And David Foster Wallace says you should read these books because they're good books and think about how they're structured. It's good enough for me. So that's an example of the AntiLibrary. If you want to see this as well, you can just Google David Foster Wallace, literary analysis, or Illinois State University, and it'll come right up and you can get it. But that's it. I have no idea when I will dig into these, but I know sooner or later I'm going to have a flight, I'm going on vacation, something's going to happen, I'm going to grab it and I'll read it, and I will be glad that it's here waiting for me. That's it. That's the AntiLibrary. All right, friends, hopefully that was helpful. I know for at least 2 listeners who reached out to me directly and emailed me at bradley@bradleyhartmanandco.com looking for some more information on the AntiLibrary. My thought was I'm going to answer it for those guys and then hopefully share the broader insight with everyone here. So as always, thank you for listening. If you got value from this idea, feel free to pass it to those in your network. The people in your network look to people like you for where they should apply their limited time and attention. And if you got value from this and you want to go one step further, I know I'm going to ask for more things. All right, give us a review. Those reviews, whether it's on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple or wherever you are listening, those mean more to us than you know. And if you like this sort of idea, but imagine it might be more helpful in a newsletter format, you, my friend, should subscribe to our twice monthly newsletter where we bust our tail every single week to make it worth reading. You can find that at bradleyhartmanandco.com. Scroll to the bottom of any single page on our website and subscribe there. If at any point in the future, because it's me, I write it, I take a lot of care, and I hope I deliver a lot of value. If I ever let you down, you can unsubscribe with one click. But, all right, I'm busting my tail to make sure that doesn't happen. So go check it out. That's our newsletter. It's the Construction Leadership Newsletter. Our goal is to make that the best newsletter you listen to. So that is all we've got, my friends. I want to thank our sponsors at Capital One Trade Credit. And we're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, are owed nothing. Deliver value first.